So David has been the Chief Digital Officer of Gannett for 2 years. Gannett's done some very, very interesting things. It's most famous to most people as the proprietor of USA Today, but that, as they say, is just the start of it. So I'm intrigued by this, David. USA Today, almost by definition, is the most national of media. And you have that asset, and you also have a whole network of local assets. So talk to us about how you're thinking about content and geography and where that's taking the business now.
Sure, I think it's a really interesting question, and Gannett is uniquely positioned in, I think, one respect by having that national and local set of content. And the fascinating lens to look through this is that historically, geography has set the boundaries for each one of these news organizations that we have within the company, whether it's the Des Moines Register or KARE 11 TV in Minneapolis, KUSA, and so forth. And geography has been a physical boundary, but as we've watched this digital ecosystem come into play, there are no geographic boundaries. So our biggest challenge and opportunity, quite frankly, is to think of Gannett as one news organization with the capabilities of 5,000 journalists across the country, being able to leverage all of those, being able to implement systems that can share content across the company. So I can take the live news from our television stations and run it on a USA Today, or I can run it on the Indianapolis Star. So looking at Gannett holistically as a fist in an organization is a really interesting place for us, and that's what we're working on currently.
So I've never really thought about this until this exact second.
Yeah.
And for people that live in New York who grew up in Indianapolis, or people who live in Miami that grew up in Des Moines, Iowa, what is their propensity to consume the news now they can do it online from Des Moines, even though they're in a land far, far away?
Well, there is no boundary anymore, so their propensity is pretty high. And New York is right. New York's in its own little universe, right? There are people who don't leave the island and think that everything happens within the island. What we know with USA Today as a brand and organization, it really is the nation's newspaper, and it creates a broad perspective, and it's not left. You know, it's not the New York Times. It's not right. It's not Fox News. It really is a broad representative. So when you combine that with the local, the really strong local brands that we have, you get this great combination of content and perspective that's both national and local, and it's fascinating. And culturally, it's probably our single biggest challenge to think of ourselves not just as one little entity, but as a massive organization. And I used to be at CNN, as you know, and we had a handful of bureaus. And Lisa, was at NBC News. They have a handful of bureaus in the United States. We've got 100 bureaus at Gannett when you think about the scale and reach, and that's really what's exciting.
You operate in pretty much every medium you can think of, and I'm so tempted to ask you to give me the elevator speech about Captivate, but I will avoid forcing you. But yes, and we're here all week for those. But you're in everything. You're in newspapers. You're in the digital delivery of newspapers. You're in television. You're in online video. You're in digital FSIs with Shop Local. You're in rich media with Point Roll, and you're the Chief Digital Officer. Talk to me about how you think about measurement and the presentation of data to advertisers, and how you work with your sales force and all of the other parties to think about measurement models around your business.
Well, okay, so that's a daunting question. At its simplest, measurement, of course, makes everything better. So measurement, as we're seeing it applied to our television stations, and as we're seeing addressable TV come into that marketplace, will only make those products better. Measurement as it relates to display advertising and the digital piece, we're spending an extraordinary amount of attention and effort in making all of those systems work by integrating third-party measurement, whether it's a ComScore, VCE type of measurement to make everything better. Again, I come back to measurement just making everything better. VCE that we're deploying for viewability of ads. PointRoll has an extensive set of measurement, attribution modeling, data analytics, and reporting that make their products better for their clients. So I don't know that there's one way we talk to each of the different groups about it. I would say having data scientists, having that capability, having people who can speak to measurement in an intelligent way is a core capability that the company is really focused on, and then it gets applied in different parts of the organization.
But is there a challenge dealing with the buy side of the business, whether it's the client side or the agency side, when you're involved in so many properties? And do you find you're sort of starting anew over and over and over again, or do you end up in some kind of, you do? Okay.
It's impossible dealing with you all. No,
okay.
It's not impossible. Look, they call this a revolution, right? This is the beat TV, I think even in Andy's thing, it's the media revolution. And a revolution is a messy process. We are all in a messy, the more systems we're trying to plug into each other to make it easier, the more complicated it has also become. And then one of our biggest challenges, I really believe, is the currency challenge. The currency challenge, because the more that we have data, and everyone in this room has different sets of data. Okay, I've got great data from first-party subscribers who subscribe to millions of papers across the United States. Deep, rich, address, name, phone number, credit cards, the whole scale. There's this whole range of third-party data from the data zoos, and then there's a whole set of data that the agencies have that they want to use for measurement all the way across. And I feel like we're all ships passing in the night, and until we can find a way to unify that data into a common currency and language, it is going to be messy, and it is going to be challenging for us as organizations.
Yeah, it's like we're operating in a world of restaurants with very long line lists and a whole load of customers that want to bring their own bottle anyway. That's
well said.
So I wanted to chat I want to chat about the digital transformation of USA Today, specifically usatoday.com. And I think it would be great if the people that are viewing this either live, many millions are viewing this live, but all the people that view it afterwards, that a visit to USA.com, particularly in the tablet experience right now, and presumably on any Windows 8 touchscreen experience as well, is quite transformative in the way that you're thinking about the whole publishing experience and the whole reader experience. Talk to us about what you've done, about why you've done it, and then let's talk about how the response has been from editorial people, from advertisers, and we can spend some time on this. I think it's a very important development.
Oh, thank you. Well, so USA Today is the first of the rollout of this new platform that will then go to these 100 properties that we have across the country. And I think what's really innovative about that is that it was really built for a different type of advertising experience that was trying to solve the problem of what do we do with display? How is display advertising going to evolve from a competitive mechanism, an annoying mechanism, a direct response mechanism, into something more interesting that takes advantage of sight, sound, and motion, that allows experiences to happen. So if you open usatoday.com up in any browser, and as you say, it's been optimized for a tablet browser as well.
Well, that's the key. It's a browser, not an app.
It's a browser, not an app. You'll see two ears on the left and right, and those ears are indicators to move laterally across the screen instead of scrolling up and down. And so this product was engineered and every bit of the thinking around this was to create a left to right navigation. And the reason that that's important is that by doing a left to right navigation, we open up the entire screen for advertising in a native, I'll misuse the term, but a native and fluid user experience that is not as interruptive. And you'll see that the videos are framed to be all above the fold, not halfway above the fold. You'll see that as we make transitions between...
Well, let me check in with you on that just for a second. Is there a fold at all?
There is a fold by definition in these tablets, right? There is a certain amount of pixel space we have to work with that everything gets framed. So yes, there is content that may be below that, However, that architecture is set up to frame the highest and most valuable elements above the fold.
Okay.
And but there's the behavior we're trying to create for people is not to engage in pages and scroll down. The behavior we're trying to create for people is skim across. Take the best of magazine advertising and where ads are part of the content, ads are part of the flow. I've never heard anybody get upset about an ad in a magazine. I've never had anybody say, boy, that was really annoying. It's just part of the content. It's part of the serendipitous experience as you're navigating through a magazine to see something cool. And with digital, we can take that behavior and that value set and then even make the ads more interesting than even a magazine ad. The stuff that our team is developing for Lamborghini, Lexus, Audi, car stuff is outstanding. Into this
all
transitional,
mass market products.
All mass market, and that fits our, cars work well, entertainment works fantastic. I showed you the stuff we're doing for CBS and so forth. And I'll just give you one nugget of insight for us. The insight we had was that the model for publishing as it sits today is that publishers build a page of content, try to attract a lot of people there. We put an ad on a page, and we hope that somebody clicks on that ad to go somewhere else to experience something richer. Okay, and we all know that happens 1 out of 1,000, 2 out of 1,000 times, 3 if we're lucky, right? That's the model. And what we wanted to do was say, take all of that rich experience that was on the other side of that click and bring it into the natural flow of the user experience. And that way, not 3 out of 1,000 see it, but 1,000 out of 1,000 get that experience. And that opens up a whole different discussion with advertisers, and we're just getting started on seeing how that plays.
So the opportunity to see moves from being a theoretical measure to actually a high probability that people really will.
That's right.
See it. So I'd like to touch a little bit about some of the really kind of downstream, close to the point of sale, executional stuff that Gannett does with Shop Local, for example, because we all know that the FSI, the freestanding insert, has been a key pillar of the print newspaper economy forever, right? And you can't help noticing that as newspaper circulation falls, the circulation of FSIs falls with it. I'm fascinated to know about how you're seeing the success of the digital FSI and the introduction of things like video, which we've never seen in that environment, affecting that market and how well that's going for you.
Yeah, well, much like Tom was talking earlier about how his company was the beneficiary of a lot of work that has been done in the past. Shop Local, because it built out all the websites and the circular PDFs for a lot of these retailers, is the beneficiary of all these massive databases of all of these items. And what we're able to do with that is that we've created APIs that allow any advertiser or any agency or any other company, whether it's a rich media provider such as our own with PointRoll, tap into those databases to create dynamic advertising that can be more targeted and interesting. So the circulars are not dead yet. Interestingly enough, they're still working, and we're having more and more people revert back, and that's actually a growing part of our business again, which is kind of fascinating. But then we can add to that this digital capability, which allows targeting local offers, geo-targeting to the phones, dynamic creative optimization using all of these databases that we've created over the last umpteen years. So it's exciting.